Whatever you have come in anticipating, whatever you expect or worry for our world, for the future, for our lives, let it go. Make space in your heart to be surprised. Make room in your soul for a new story to take shape. Let astonishment be possible at this life that remains a miracle. Imagine here the bursting of joy, relentless and resilient, coming in waves, washing over us with music and story, silence, and still this dreaming together, being hope for one another, and courage to believe in this new day dawning for all of us. Come, let us worship together.
Kings and cabbages go back to compost, but good deeds stay green forever.
Some things will never change. Some things will always be the same. The voice of forest water in the night, a woman's laughter in the dark, the clean, hard rattle of raked gravel, the cricketing stitch at midday in hot meadows, the delicate web of children's voices in bright air. These things will never change. The glitter of sunlight on roughened waters, the glory of the stars, the innocence of the morning, the smell of the sea in harbors, these things will always be the same. The feathery blur and smoky buddings of young boughs, and something there that comes and goes and never can be captured. The thorn of spring, the sharp and tongueless cry, these things will never change. The leaf, the blade, the flower, the wind that cries and sleeps and wakes again, the trees whose stiff arms clash and tremble in the dark, the dust of lovers long since buried in the earth. All things belong to the earth, and they will never change. All things proceeding from the earth to seasons, all things that lapse and change and come again upon the earth, these come up from the earth that never changes, and they go back to the earth that lasts forever. Only the earth endures, but it endures forever. The tarantula, the adder, and the asp will also never change. Pain and death will always be the same. But under the pavement, trembling like a pulse, under the building, trembling like a cry, under the waste of time, under the hoof of the beast above the broken bones of cities, there will be something growing like a flower, something bursting from the earth again, forever deathless, faithful, coming into life again, like April. Publius Aelianus Hadrianus, better known as Hadrian, the Roman emperor. He first became emperor of the Roman Empire in the year 117 and ruled for the next 21 years. He was the first emperor to actually go and visit all of the provinces of the empire. And in the year 122, he visited the far-flung province of Britain. And while he was there, he ordered a large wall to be built across the width of England, known as Hadrian's Wall. It stretches 73 miles. It was at times up to 8 feet tall, with small toll booths and towers. And although not actually on the border of Scotland, it was built to keep raiders out, and is often thought of as the line separating the English from the Scots. And nestled into Hadrian's Wall at just about the halfway mark rose a elegant sycamore gap tree in a dip between two hills. It was a beautiful tree planted in just the right spot. It was a tree that if I showed you a picture of it, you'd say, "Oh, I've seen that before." It's a really dramatic setting. It became the most photographed tree in all of the United Kingdom. Featured in calendars and guidebooks and postcards. Day hikers, in fact, friends of mine, posed in front of it for selfies. Couples took their vows beneath it. It even showed up in that weird Kevin Costner Robin Hood movie. And then, on a very stormy night in September of 2023, two vandals came to the Sycamore Gap with a chainsaw. The tree, which stood for over 150 years, was brought down in minutes. The next morning, it was news all across the United Kingdom. This icon had been chopped down for no apparent reason. Thousands who loved it reacted with anger and sorrow, confusion and lament. Eventually, the two men who cut it down were arrested. They had videotaped themselves doing it. One of the podcasts I listen to always reminds its listeners to don't Instagram your crimes. And people were upset. Why was this tree that was so beloved, why was it cut down? Why did these people cut it down? And after many interviews, it became clear that the reason why they cut it down was because they wanted to make people upset. Just that, for no other reason. They wanted to upset people. They did it out of spite, out of meanness. Two adult men went out with chainsaws, knowing that they would get a lot of publicity and it would make a lot of people upset. They didn't necessarily do it because they wanted to make a certain group of people upset, just everyone upset. They did it out of spite. Do you know that there's such a thing as a theology of spite? I mean, it's not a formal doctrine of the church, but rather it's an examination of malice and revenge that humans often partake in, looking at it through a religious lens. The theology of spite involves a complex intersections of perceived injustice, of entitlement to retribution, moral corruption, of intentionally causing harm. It's often centers on a distorted sense of justice where an individual inflicts damage, sometimes on themselves, even to punish others. I'm going to take your cat when we split up just because I know it's going to bother you. I'm going to harm this person that you love maybe even harm myself, because I know it will hurt you. This harm is done often out of a feeling of that they have the right to do it, that there's an injustice that they can't necessarily quite articulate, but they know something feels wrong, and they perceive that this act of harm will be just and rational, when in fact it's quite the opposite. Spite often manifests as a feeling of entitlement to punish others. Right? It's often done by people who feel like they should be in power, but they aren't. The manosphere, I don't know if you know this term, right? The all of the podcasts and TV shows and internet things are all about the injustice done to men, the manosphere. Not that there's not some truth in it, but as opposed to blaming a system that has created, put weight on men in unjust ways, they take it out more often than not on women. What's wrong with women? Why don't women want to date us? This is, I guess, from what I hear, is a big part of this manosphere. It's also, another way to think of it is, I think of an example is, people who are bad at their job, who get demoted or get passed over, and the person who gets the position often being a woman or a person of color, they sort of say the problem is DEI, right? This diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's not me. It's that system, it's that other system that was created to correct for stuff. That's the reason I'm not in charge. Sometimes it manifests itself as self-harm. I often think of the story of public swimming pools in the South, where people thought like, oh, this is great, we'll have public swimming pools. This will be wonderful. But then they sort of said, oh, they have to be integrated. And people said, the white population sort of said, oh no, it's better that no one has public swimming pools than for us to breach this racist thing. We have to keep that. So we will punish ourselves by not enjoying swimming pools and places to cool off and enjoy as a community. The whole Doge thing, right? The Department of Government Efficiency, right? That is nothing else but spite. Nothing else but spite. So when people in Great Britain woke up to discover the tree cut down, and the reason was just done out of spite, they were heartbroken. Many of us feel that same way looking at our world and our government today. The way things were will never be again. At least not in our political lives. The status quo, which we had gotten used to, which we knew was not equal, at least provided a system where justice could occur, and where justice did occur, where checks and balances were there and at least worked on and worked with. Of course, there's much wrong with the institutions of our culture. Institutions and systems which allowed the wicked to act quickly while justice and mercy moved very slowly. Yet the speed and the direction and the ways that things have changed in the last few years have no doubt left you, as they have done for me, feeling worn down and, well, hopeless. The actions of those in charge are evil. There's no other word to describe the snatching of people off of streets and sending them to nations they did not come from. There's no other word but evil to describe the horrible terms that the president of our nation has made in describing women, reporters, and Muslims, or people from different countries, or people with intellectual difficulties and differences. There's no other word but evil to describe that long list that is running through all of our heads right now. The opposite of spite is grace and hope. Right? Grace is just another word also for love. Right? The opposite of spite, which is pointed and individualistic and short-sighted, is the opposite of hope, which is welcoming and large and looking forward. Václav Havel, the Czech author, poet, and playwright, and finally president, wrote this about hope. He said, "I am not an optimist because I am not sure everything ends well. Nor am I a pessimist because I am not sure everything ends badly. I just carry hope in my heart. Hope is the feeling that life and work have meaning, and you can have it regardless of the state of the world that surrounds you. Life without hope is empty, boring, and useless. I could not imagine that I could strive for something if I did not carry hope in me. It is as big a gift as life itself. Hope is the orientation of the spirit, an orientation of the heart. It is not the conviction that something will turn out well, but the certainty that something makes sense regardless of how it turns out. Hope is a state of the mind and not of the world. Hope in this deep and powerful sense is not the same as joy that things are going well or willingness to invest in enterprises that are obviously heading for success. But hope is rather an ability to work for something because it is good. After the two men were arrested and put into jail, foresters there at that British National Park took the tall trunk and the graceful branches of that sycamore gap tree. They took them away. Some of them were turned into furniture or memorial art, and it left only a stump behind. My mother, who grew up in Britain, talked about visiting London in 1947 and just seeing the places that had just been decimated by the bombs. But then she said that everywhere you looked that spring of 1947, even among the ruins, you saw these little white flowers. Little white flowers popping up. And she asked some people, what's the name of that flower? And they said, well, in Ireland it's known as St. Patrick's cabbage. But here it's called London's pride. In the spring of 2024, the park foresters at the Sycamore Gaps trees at the Hadrian Wall placed an astonishing sign where the tree once stood. The sign said, "This tree stump is still alive. If we leave it alone, it might sprout new growth." And they were right. Over the next months, 8 tiny clusters of shoots emerged around the base of the stump. The English sycamore tree is actually a species of maple tree, and it usually grows from those little winged seed pods that we all sweep up every fall. But when a tree is cut down, it sometimes reproduces itself asexually. It sprouts a genetic clone of the original tree from its roots. Where the sycamore gap tree once stood nearly 50 feet in height, new shoots of just a couple of inches were growing. The Reverend Liddy Barlow, a UCC minister, writing about this tree, she writes, "A shoot starts small. It requires patience and care. It doesn't germinate in a typical way, but it holds potential to grow. After all is destroyed, out of devastation one will emerge who will restore and renew all creation. There is life yet to come." What we think looks dead might yet still be alive. And just as a tree can sprout again after being cut down, we too can find hope even in the midst of struggle. The sprouting tree serves as a symbol of new beginnings, encouraging us to look forward to a new life and new opportunities. Or as Thomas Wolfe wrote, "Under the pavement trembling like a pulse, under the buildings trembling like a cry, under the waste of time, under the hooves of the beast, above the broken bones of cities, there will be something growing like a flower, something bursting from the earth again, forever deathless, faithful, coming into life again like April."